Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be while you're catching up on Twitter drama, trying to recover from turf war burnout, wondering how chicken managed to beat egg in the last Splatfest, whatever you're doing right now, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this, unless I don't. Also, yes, Baki, I know the logo doesn't match the background. Don't worry, it's gone. And thank you for the raid, Z. I didn't realize you were streaming. I would have stopped by and said hi. But welcome Z and his cohorts to the podcast as well. Today I'm going to be previewing Low Ink, give you my list of teams that I think are going to have a good weekend, and give you my top 10 teams that I think have an opportunity to win this tournament. Normally, when I do a podcast, I have just like one page of notes that I have typed out of things that I want to say. For this episode, I have 4 or 2 pages back to back, so I got a lot of stuff to kind of go over. Before I get into the low ink stuff, I want to discuss something that happened last week. Now, if you've listened to previous episodes of the Popcast, which you have because you're a loyal fan, you know that I want to try to avoid talking about Twitter drama on this podcast. In the past, I've always felt like there's other avenues that you can go to get that kind of quote-unquote tea. I usually tweet my personal thoughts about things on my Twitter, and the focus of this is supposed to be the lower level community and things that pertain to just the lower level community. But as I kind of saw things unfold starting yesterday morning on Twitter and into the night, I felt like it was relevant enough to all of us that it is kind of worth mentioning and talking about. If anything, just to keep the conversation going, so that it is more widespread. I still kind of working out what it is exactly I want to say about it. While the stream was kind of warming up before my face went live, I was still like rewriting notes here about exactly what it is that I want to say specifically. So I might stumble through a few points that I want to get to. But regardless, I did want to make some kind of statement, as brief as I think it will be. Even if Frosh kind of called me out and said my brief statements are never brief at all. But we'll see how it goes. But basically, to give you guys context, a higher level player basically misgendered somebody on purpose and got called out for it on Twitter. That person has since made an apology tweet. Some people made jokes about it, got called out for it. They had to make an apology tweet. Some people tried to defend it without really realizing how they were coming across. Those people had to make an apology tweet. And this kind of gave others courage to kind of speak out as well about situations that have happened to them or comments that have been made to them, either recently or as far back as like 4 months or so. And some people attack that and then said, like, well, if this happened 4 months ago, you shouldn't be allowed to bring it up now if you didn't bring it up then. Like there's some sort of statute of limitations on bigotry or something like that. So those people had to make an apology tweet. Or if they haven't, they should pretty soon. It's good that these kinds of things got exposed, because I think a lot of people don't really realize how they come across or how they're kind of perceived by other people. I don't mean, now, if you're using like straight slurs against somebody, you know how you're coming across. You know, that's kind of like what I tweeted out yesterday. That's not a mistake. A mistake is you accidentally left your Splatfest tee on when you were playing in a tournament last weekend. Uh, Purposely trying to hurt somebody through words is not a mistake. That's you showing your character to everybody. That's you showing us who you really are as a person. That's a character flaw you have that you need to get fixed. Don't label it a mistake. That's not to say we all don't have character flaws, but not all of us are making racist and bigoted and homophobic and transphobic slurs against people on a daily basis, like some of you appear to be doing. Now, I want to be very careful about this because I don't want to come across as yet another white straight male telling you guys how you should be thinking and acting and responding to what we kind of saw yesterday. But I think it's kind of important that we keep conversations like this going to try to educate ourselves about what it is that people from the affected communities kind of go through, and how they kind of feel like their voices might be being suppressed, or how like there's things we do in our daily lives that kind of belittle them, and we might not even be realizing this. I'll give you an example. The first time I commentated Low Ink this was April of this year. I'd commentated several tournaments before this, but this was the first time I did Low Ink specifically. I thought I did really good. I felt really good coming off of that when the stream ended. I got a lot of praise from the staff who heard me for the first time. They thought I did great. I saw in the feedback channel for Low Ink, somebody had posted something that said the commentators use the pronoun he and him for every single player. And basically they thought that was kind of wrong because we were assuming the gender of everybody and not using they them pronouns, or even she her pronouns for basically every player. And that was the first time that it was kind of made aware to me that I was doing something that I wouldn't say it was ignorant. Maybe it was, but more so just unaware how just common things I thought I was doing or that I was doing was kind of negatively affecting other people. And until that was pointed out to me, it never even crossed my mind. So now, and it's an easy thing to fix, super easy thing to fix, to say they, them for players when you're commentating them, instead of just saying, oh, he made a really great play. You just say they made a really good play. Super easy to do. I thought I was going to get tripped up a lot, and sometimes I do kind of get tripped up and say he still. But I do correct myself and keep and just like keep going forward. Now, for a specific player that I know that they want to go by he, him, or she, her, I'll still use that pronoun when I'm talking about them. But again, that's something I would have never had grown as a commentator or a person if that was never pointed out to me in the past. So I don't remember who made that comment in the feedback channel of Low Ink, but thank you for doing that. Honestly, I did take that feedback to heart, and that's really helped me improve as a person. As far as keeping these kinds of conversations going, whenever something like this happens in the Splatoon community, whether it's something something like this that we saw this yesterday, or any other kind of drama. I say drama because sometimes people freak out because they got squid bagged and then get in a Twitter fight. That's not really drama. That's just high school stupid stuff. But whenever something like this happens in the community, I always take it to my team's private text chat, and we have a conversation about it. I get everybody's opinion on what kind of happened and what they think about it. And it's important to have these kinds of healthy conversations so that once again we can kind of educate ourselves. With my team specifically, I never really think about this, but it's true. I have a really diverse team. We have 6 players on Destiny Troops. I live in the Midwest. We got a guy on the East Coast. We got a couple guys on the West Coast. I got a couple of guys down in the Bible Belt in the South. We got 18-year-olds. I'm 30, but I'm not the oldest person on my team. We got a 32-year-old dude who lives out in Los Angeles. So gosh, ethnicity all over the place. I think we got about 3 continents represented on ethnicity alone. It's so we're a really diverse team, and we all have a lot of different backgrounds, and we all perceive things a little bit differently. But if we're never having these kinds of conversations about how you feel about the things that are going on, or we don't pay attention to the things that are going on, we don't really grow as a team. And you might be thinking, well, it's a video game. Who cares? My job is to be a slayer. My job is to get kills. My job is to be an anchor. My job is to stay alive and give my teams jumps or whatever. But when we talk about synergy and things like that, it goes deeper. You got to be able to have an understanding of each other as teammates, and not just in esports, but in ball sports or your work office or anything like that. A better understanding of your teammates and the world that we live in and the community that we live in is never a bad thing. And honestly, I feel like teams that disband after 3 months never really have these kind of tough conversations with each other. And I've always enjoyed having that. And I feel like it's kind of enriched everything about our team and made the experience that much better. Now, if I can kind of somewhat shift gears here, since we're kind of talking about making an active effort to try to clean up our community and educate ourselves a little bit more, make it stronger and more accepting than it ever has been, that's why it's so frustrating when a commentator for Awesome Games Done Quick makes a statement that says, the online community for Splatoon 2 is dead. Says that to about 1,000 people watching it live. First off, if I could comment on that. If you're watching the Popcast, this isn't like some sort of mainstream Splatoon podcast thing. You can't just type in Splatoon podcast into Google and then this pops up. You had to like actually do some digging to find me. And by the way, thank you for doing that. But if you are a fan of the Popcast, you know full well that this community is not dead. So I don't really have to explain to you why it isn't. But I'm going to anyways. If you just looked at the lower level community by itself, which is again the focus of what this podcast is supposed to be. We got Low Ink this upcoming weekend. That's going to get about 100 plus teams. We got Ash Cup. We got Little Squid League. We have Checkpoint Server. The Checkpoint Server, if you listen to my interview with the staff from last week, those guys are reaching out to people that are S plus on down. Also known as 99% of the community that we've been alienating from a competitive standpoint. So we're starting to reach out to the vast majority of the community that hasn't even been playing with us yet through this Checkpoint server. We got Launch Point now. We have all these other Clan Clash, all these other tournaments going on. I've said it before. I'll say it again. This is the golden age of the lower level Splatoon community. That's not dying. And now we have so many more things that are like the step up. We can keep climbing the ladder that we were missing before. We have SAC. When you get too good for Low Ink, good. You can go and attack SAC whenever those seasons come out. And when you make top 8 in SAC and you're too good for that, great. We now have the Midway tournament, which I had always said that we had a huge void in this community for teams that are in like the upper Div 3 to the lower Div 1. And there wasn't really anything for them to do except for sign up for open invite for tournaments and hope that all the Div X teams just didn't sign up for it. But now we have the midway tournament, which fills that void. So now we have, if you're in the lower level of this community, you can see the path that you can take to get to the top. Now, how long it takes you to climb that path depends on your team and things like that. But there's at least a path now, and that path wasn't there before. And we see more and more teams signing up for all of these tournaments. We got, what, like 700 teams signed up for the NA Open back in, was it May or June? We had about 500 no, I think we had 699 sign up for the Turf War tournament. We got another tournament in September, and that doesn't include all the other tournaments that are going on right now. Inkstorm 8 that brought in over 100 teams. To say this community is dead is basically saying, I don't pay attention, so I'm going to make a blanket statement that covers everything that I don't know about. And I also saw the same person who made this statement kind of retweet things that kind of reinforce this idea. They retweeted somebody that said, this is exactly why I left the competitive community, because of blah, blah, blah. And it's fine. People, there's two types of people that will leave this competitive community. There's one person that's just like, I'm not having fun with this anymore. I'm just going to go bye. Which is great. That's how you should do it. The other people will be like, you know what? I'm not having fun anymore, and I'm going to go out of my way to make it known that you shouldn't be enjoying this either. Those are the people that try to burn down the village as they're leaving. For whatever reason, it's because they're jealous, basically. Because they didn't enjoy it and other people are, so they're not allowed to enjoy it specifically. That's like me saying... that's like me getting mad at people who can actually grow hair, you know, and be like, I'm not allowed to grow hair, so you shouldn't be allowed to do it either. Like, no, why is this a thing? I don't understand. But here's what we gotta see, and here's why it connects to what happened yesterday on Twitter. Is we're trying to make an active effort to clean out our community. We have to do a better job of supporting these people that are coming out and complaining about things. Because keep it in mind, we're just a month out, about a month and a half out from this tweet that happened. And you guys remember this tweet because everybody and their mom retweeted it, basically saying, I might be a pedophile, but I'm still really good at Splatoon. Like, that happened. And that, as stupid as that is, and as much as we condemned it, that kind of thing is what people that hate our community are looking to point at. Instead of all these other things that are going on that are great, instead of all these other tournaments that have been fantastic, they want to point at the one thing that really gets to us. And we just got to let that go. We got to let stuff like that go. We can't let that kind of stuff get to us. Because we are actually a part of this. We know what this community is capable of. And we know that this community is working and improving. We have people that are now putting their preferred pronouns in their Twitter bio. We weren't doing that yesterday, but we're now realizing it's important to do that now. We got people that are starting to expose the bigots and the racists and the homophobics and the transphobics on Twitter. And we're starting to get those people out of our community, or at least we're starting to educate them why what they were doing was wrong to begin with. My point is this, and this was tweeted out several times yesterday as well. Just be nice to each other. It's really easy to not say the N-word, the R-word, the F-word, or misgender someone, or any kind of offensive slur. It's super easy to not do that. So let's practice not doing that, people. And the next time somebody starts running their mouth about the community when they know nothing about it, we're not even going to care because we're too busy having fun and being wholesome to even hear them. So let me get a drink of water, and then we'll actually get into what you did come here for, which is not to hear me yell at you, but to talk about Low Ink. I guess I could. As a non-binary member of the competitive community, I appreciate your discussion, seeing growth and change. The conspiracy. Well, good. I'm glad you. I'm glad you think that. Checkpoint is superb. Another thing, kind of along that line, before I get into Low Ink, I do need to look into Launch Point, which is what I was getting confused with Checkpoint on my last podcast. So I'll definitely need to look into that. Go put your pronouns in your bio. Yes. I don't know who started who started the trend of putting it yesterday. It was tweeted out a lot yesterday. Like, hey, let's put our pronouns in. I had already had mine in, but I just did that because I saw other people were doing it. I didn't realize why I should be doing it, but got educated yesterday in why I should be doing it. So good things coming out from there. Also, hello, Carrot. All right. We got a tournament this weekend. As I burp up my water. Now, last time I previewed this tourney, I did it on a Monday before the Monday before the tournament actually started. And at that time, only about 50 teams or so had registered. By the end of that week, it had grown to about 110. Now, a lot of teams dropped the day of. I think the official number for that was about 95. But still, lesson learned. Don't do a preview just off of the teams that register for the tournament. So when I'm going to be talking about teams today, I'm basically just going to go over every team that I assume is going to register for the tournament. And if they don't, then I'll make like a refraction or a redaction or something on the next episode and be like, okay, this is something this team didn't even play, so I just wasted my time talking about them or whatever. But I'd rather do that than just preview the 50 teams that signed up because that is not going to tell the full story. And if I could, while you're listening to this, sign up for Low Ink. Don't wait till the day of. Don't give staff. You know how stressful this week is for staff. They have to like verify literally every single player, and now they're gonna have to verify like 50 teams on like Friday night because people take so long to sign up. Go ahead and sign. Thank you, Pony Puncher. Pony Puncher. That's an aggressive name. Well, thank you for registering now. That saves staff a lot of time that they can do it today instead of Friday. Teams of note that I won't be talking about this weekend. Radiance, I'm pretty sure they disbanded. If not, Violet, that was on Radiance last month, is now on access denied. So, no sense talking about Radiance. If they do, and they haven't signed up yet. If they haven't disbanded and they do sign up, they'll be a contender for top cut and winning the whole tournament. But I can't remember where I saw that. Maybe it was like another podcast or something, but I'm pretty sure Radiance doesn't exist anymore. Squid Vibes, another team that could win this whole tournament. But they've been pending in registration for a while. I don't really know what's up with that. So I don't know if they're going to play or not specifically. So I won't be talking about them in depth, but they're a team that could win this whole tournament. And Supa, the wonderful French team that probably thinks it's illegal for them to use armor for some reason because I've never seen them use it. they're banned because they won the Xanadu tournament series, not because they won the Xanadu tournament series, but they did it in such dominant fashion, going 7-0 in Top Cut. That Lowing staff was like, "Yeah, see ya, we're not. You guys are too good for this nonsense." All right. Teams that interest me, not my top 10 teams, but teams that I'm interested in keeping an eye on. Krill Streak. These guys beat Ink Sync and Ink Storm 8. Now, if you know Krill Streak and you know Ink Sync, you know that Krill Streak has no business beating Ink Sync in any tournament. I did reach out to Krill Streak through Twitter, and they did kind of give me some feedback on what happened there. So it seemed like it was a legit upset. It wasn't there were no disconnection issues. There was no we cheesed a Rainmaker game or anything like that. They straight up beat them 2-1 in a actual competitive tournament. So that is fantastic for Krill Streak. So it'll be interesting to see what Krill Streak can kind of do in this tournament now, and if they can kind of take that momentum and carry it over against teams that they're going to be playing against that are well below Ink Sync skill level, that's for sure. So if you're a team and you go up against Krill Streak, don't take them lightly. They've proven that they can hang with just about anybody in this tournament at this point. Access denied. These guys have been making some noise in tournaments lately. Finishing third in Little Squid League 5 2-3 weekends ago. However long ago that was. And shout out to Saucy Boy, who did link me some, I believe, a YouTube video that had their entire stream of that tournament. So that was really nice. Thank you. As kind of like a blanket statement to everyone. If there's any like game or match or tourney set from your team's perspective that you recorded or streamed that you want me to see, feel free to send that my way. I try to look into as many things as I can to get a better sense of things that happen. Like just seeing that Krill Streak beat Ink Sync 2-1. On paper, that seems interesting, but when you actually go in and see how it happened, that tells the actual story, not just what the final result on the paper is. So being able to actually see what happens in these tournaments that's not on stream is really helpful for me. It makes me a better commentator. It makes me a better analyst. So thank you for Saucy Boy for sending me your team's stuff. And if Access Denied plays anybody interesting or has some cool sets, I'll be sure to look over that this weekend. Thunderstrike. Interesting team. I don't think this is the same Thunderstrike of old. There used to be a Thunderstrike team. Their tag was like a capital T and a capital S with a diamond. But this Thunderstrike team, I believe, looks like a lowercase t and a lowercase s. So it's not... I think it's just a new team that has the same name as Thunderstrike. That doesn't surprise me that two teams have the same name. Thunderstrike seems like common enough. I mean, we've covered pretty much every single water-related natural disaster for a team name. So at some point, we're going to have to start repeating these things. But I think this is a different Thunderstrike team. And what's even more confusing is that they have an Omega on their team, which at first I thought was the Omega from Splat or Swim, and I thought, okay, they just left Splat or Swim and joined Thunderstrike. But no, they're two completely separate Omegas. At least on Battlefy, they're two different Omegas. So a very confusing team nonetheless, but a new team that appears to have some pretty good players on them. My teammate Z played with Omega on the Midpoint Draft Cup, and I actually played against that team with my Midpoint team, and that Omega that I saw looked pretty good. Looked like a pretty solid player, so be interesting to see how the Thunderstrike team does in this tournament. Red Sun. This is a new team. Can confirm they are different Omegas. Okay, cool. That's. I was so confused when I saw that. But I guess the word Omega could be. I'm sure maybe there are like more than several Omegas. There's no other pop gun that I've found except for my wife that people often confuse me with a lot. Even though she has the Miss Pop Gun in her name and I don't. Red Sun. This is a new team made up of a couple of players from Technical Machine, Vesta, and Vertigo, and Clementina, or just Tina, who comes from a long list of teams, most notably from Operation Goldfish. And she did get the exemption from staff to be in as a part of this. So this is a newer-ish team that's made up of a mix of experience and talent. Now, Technical Machine never made it to Top Cut, but they got close several times. So now adding a new player like Tina, and I don't know who their other fourth is. I didn't recognize the name. But Red Sun might be a sleeper pick to make it into Top Cut. Definitely a team to keep your eye on. There's an Omega on Ascension. Okay, so there's three. At least three there. Splatter Swim. Good consistent results. One Little Squid League 5. Just missed out on making Top Cut in the Xanadu Tournament Series. I think they finished 5th in Swiss. You needed to be in top 4 to make Top Cut in that. And they still have Omega on their rosters, which really works out in their favor. This team they've won beta brackets in June. They made beta again. I believe they finished 3rd in beta in July. But now they're coming off a tournament win. Their second tournament win because they've won the Xanadu Tournament Series before. So now having a little bit more experience, a little bit more synergy, and another month to work out whatever crazy comp they could pull out of their butts for these maps, these maps and modes that we see them do. I would assume that anything short of Top Cut would be a disappointment for Splatter Swim. Not that I should be putting my kind of projections of expectations onto them, but I would assume their expectations are to make Top Cut, and they definitely have an opportunity to do that. But they are going to have to upset some teams. Well, maybe not upset, but they're going to have to beat some teams that they couldn't beat in the Xanadu Tournament Series to make Top Cut, because this Top Cut is loaded. Squid Row interests me. We haven't seen these guys in action for a while, but they did finish 2nd in Div 5 this last Ludi season. Let's see, they got Shug, they got Blanket. I might have mispronounced one of those guys. But they're a pretty solid team, and they have been around for a while. And they were going to play in the last low ink, but they had to drop the day of. So hopefully they can actually stick it and play in this tournament. They are a Top Cut contender every time they show up. So it's going to be interesting to see what Squid Row can do. Evening Chickens. These guys won the Gamma bracket. They have no business being in the Gamma bracket. I think they realize that. They are a threat to make Top Cut. It would be the first time we saw a team jump from Gamma. No, it wouldn't be the first time we've seen a team jump from Gamma to Top Cut. But Evening Chickens is definitely a Top Cut caliber team. So I'd be really surprised if they show back up in the Gamma bracket here. Aloptic and Mukuna. Both these teams were made a surprise appearance in Top Cut last month. Probably teams that many wouldn't have projected to make Top Cut, but they found ways to do it. Swiss just kind of worked out in their favor. Let's see if they can do it again. Because when they made Top Cut, they didn't do too much damage, other than Mukuna, who eliminated Persistence in surprising fashion. Aloptic getting a key win 2-1 over Inkling Technology at Purdue that kind of propelled them into the Top Cut bracket as well. So we'll see how those teams. Oh, actually, they beat Symphony as well, so we'll see how that kind of works out. Last team that interests me in this category, give me Checkmate. And no, not the Checkmate that Prin is on, that's like Div 2-ish categories. This is a different Checkmate. Yes, there are two teams called Checkmate, but this Checkmate, coming off a win over in the Checkpoint 1 tournament, winning that entire tournament, coming off a second place finish in Little Squid League 5. And they announced that they won some other smaller tournament this past weekend that I didn't know existed. So an experienced team that's been having some good results lately. Let's hopefully those guys sign up for this tournament. I don't know if they have or not. I haven't looked into it. Actually, I think they have. I think I might have verified them the other day. But regardless, I'm curious to see what a team like Checkmate can do in this kind of tournament. Gamma teams that I'd expect to make a jump up into the beta bracket. Already mentioned Evening Chickens. Eurobeats. I saw these guys in action against Splatarians in the Little Squid League 5. They got a guy named, or a person named Hia, who put on an absolute show in that set that I saw against the Splatarians. Just an absolute stud of a show. So I'm curious to see more of Eurobeats on stream, to see how they kind of play with Hia and get the most out of that person. But Eurobeats has been in beta bracket before. I don't think they're too thrilled that they were in Gamma this last one. They were the number 1 seed in Gamma, so that means they just missed the cut to be in the beta. But I expect Eurobeats to kind of take that next step back up into beta. Bread Gang, a consistent lowing team. They're definitely going to qualify for Sunday. It's just a matter of where are they going to end up. They were about middle of the pack in the Gamma bracket. Can they do enough to make that jump up into beta bracket? In order to do that, you basically just have to win one more game than you did to get into the Gamma bracket, or just get fed a Swiss schedule that's more that's got teams that are more likely to win, so that you have a better tiebreaker at the end of it. But Bread Gang, I think, has the consistency and the improvement to kind of bump them up to the next level of beta bracket. Tropics. We didn't really see a strong performance out of Tropics from the Xanadu tournament series. But as they play against fair competition, I could see them pulling off 3 to 4 wins needed to get into beta bracket. They went pretty deep into the Gamma bracket. And for the Xanadu tournament, at least the games that I saw, and I see that Chili is in my chat, or was in my chat. I didn't see Chili play. From what I've seen of Tropics, Chili seems to be, I wouldn't say their best player, but one of their key backbone players. Kind of does a really good job at making sure there's paint on the ground, making sure armor's ready. It does a lot of things that don't show up on the stat sheet that lead to victories for his team. Because he looks like an e-girl. That's you don't look like an e-girl, Chili. So with a full actual roster that we're kind of used from seeing from Tropics, I think they can find a way to make it out of Gamma and into beta. And last, but definitely not least, Tooniverse. My wife's team now. The first time I've mentioned my wife's team on the Popcast. It only took 6 episodes. But they have a more finalized roster than what they have in the past. They added Clue, and I believe a few other players that they just finished recruiting. So now they have an actual finalized roster. It's going to be interesting to see if they can make their first appearance, if they can qualify for Sunday, which would be their first time doing so in their program's history. So my personal favorite team that I'm going to be looking at for obvious reasons. And if they do end up on stream and I'm commentating, heck yeah, I'm going to be rooting for them. Get him, Mrs. Popgun. She's amazing. All right, quick water break. We'll get into the top 10, and then we'll raid somebody. Probably, by the way, Blue, because she said some really nice things to about me today on Twitter. We'll get into it. iTap signed up for Low Ink. Did you guys do that just now? I don't think I saw you guys on there earlier. I mean, I would assume iTap is going to play regardless. It's very rare that I look at a tournament that the Purdue team is not participating in, whether it be lower level or something crazy like Saturday Night Splashdown or whatever. All right. Moving on. The thing that's going to piss somebody off. The top 10 teams I think are actually going to win this tournament. The team that is going to... or the top 10 teams that I think have the potential to win this tournament. Any more new teams? I'm sure there are a lot of new teams that I didn't get to. For most of the new teams, I could only go off the ones that I actually signed up. And then for a team that I didn't really recognize, I might not go into. But if there is a team that has done that, that will do really well that I don't mention, they're definitely going to get talked about next week because I keep an eye on everything that happens during this tournament. So if there's a team that doesn't get mentioned by me yet, and they do really well, I promise you they're going to catch my attention over this weekend, and I'll talk about them next Monday. Oh, and before I get into my top 10, I did this from like number 1 down, like number 1's at the top of the page, number 10's at the bottom. But I'm going to read this off from 10 on up to number 1. So I'm just going to read my notes backwards. Way to go, Popgun. Number 10. You know this list is going to be controversial when I put Squid Knights at the bottom of it. This team has finished first in Swiss in April and July. Just last month, Squid Knights finished first. They went undefeated in Swiss, and I got them at number 10. Why is that? Well, it's because they can't win a match in Top Cut to save their life. They've been the number 1 seed twice, and both times they've been upset by the number 16 seed in the first round. Now, the number 1 seed in this tournament, since we switched to a top 16 cut, has been absolutely cursed. No number 1 seed has ever made it past the winners quarterfinals or losers round 2 for that matter. Which just kind of goes to show how you perform on Saturday almost never translates to results on Sunday in Low Ink. And until we see a better Sunday team from Squid Knights, I can't put them above any of these other teams that I have on this list. Still capable of winning this whole tournament? Absolutely, though. Number 9. I don't really have a lot to say about Port Rakume. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, to be honest with you. Since they are still a kind of newerish team. But looking at their performance in the first Low Ink, it is kind of impressive for a new team. They made top cut after going 5-1 in Swiss, their only loss being to Takedown, one of the better teams in this tournament. And they got a quality win against Supa, the CP French team that is now banned from Low Ink for being too good. Not too shabby of a finish in top cut either, going 2-2 on Sunday, with their only losses coming against the teams that finished in 3rd and 4th place. Now, we need to see more from this team, but if they take their experiences from July and have spent the past month grinding in scrims, then we could really see them make a big impact in this month's tourney. Number 8. Takedown was the team I had predicted to win Low Ink back in July. But that was back when only 50 teams had signed up for the tournament. They did still make top cut, but overall showed that they have some ways to go in regards to winning this tournament. Two interesting things happened with takedowns since we last saw them in low ink. Number one, they did really well in the Boilermaker Booyah tourney, finishing fifth and taking 2 games off of Carnage Gaming, a team that is considered around Div 2, Div 1 range. That alone would normally disqualify a team from participating in low ink. However, there was some talk that Takedown had a few subs that are higher div. And I personally haven't actually seen footage of the set or know anything about the subs they used or anything like that. But regardless, taking 2 games off of Carnage Gaming for any team that participated in low ink, that will raise some eyebrows. So a good result for them, even though they didn't win the set against Carnage Gaming in general. The other thing that happened to Takedown since we last saw them is that they had a really underwhelming performance in Little Squid League 5, going 1 win and 2 losses in their group, in which both of their losses were upsets. A tourney that a lot of people would have had them winning the entire thing, or at least challenging Splatter Swim in grand finals. Either way, they still have the potential to win a tourney like Low Ink. Inconsistency is the only thing that's holding them back from greatness. I guess you could say that about a lot of these teams. Number 7, a team that actually is trending in the right direction and is actually consistent, Symphony. Of course, it's hard to be inconsistent when your roster is made up of a grand total of 4 players, but Symphony is a team that has been around for a while now and gets more synergy with each tourney that they play together, at least this version of Symphony that we're seeing. They made their first top cut appearance last month after spending some time in the beta bracket back in June, and did pretty well. Now, it becomes a matter of making top cut every single time these guys sign up for this tourney, which is what they should be doing, and they should have been here back in June as well. And the one secret benefit that Symphony has over every other team in this tournament is that KO, their Charger / E-Leader main, loves playing on traditionally crappy maps. And Low Ink is known for supplying teams with traditionally crappy maps. Now, it is worth noting, Low Ink's maps this time around are much better than they were last month. And they've already received praise for doing that. And people are going to be, after they go through and actually play the tournament, they're going to be even more impressed with how much everything has changed for the better in the map-wise. So maybe that will hurt Symphony. I don't know. But if this team starts clicking on Sunday, they definitely have what it takes to make a deep run and win the entire tournament. Number 6, Revitalize had to be on this list somewhere, and might be doomed to be here forever. When they make yet another top cut this weekend, which they will have tied the Crustacean Crusaders for the most top cut appearances in Low Ink history at 7. 7! That is a lot of top cuts to be making, but not winning this tournament. And I feel like 6 is a fair spot for a team as experienced as Revitalize in a map in a list like this. They definitely have experience to put them above other teams I've mentioned so far. But just have issues playing against teams that I've yet to mention that are above them. But when they finally do win this tournament, it's going to happen at some point. We'll make sure to give them the proper respect and send off they deserve for being one of the most consistent Low Ink teams of all time. But I guarantee you these guys desperately want to be banned from this tournament. You do not want Rainmaker Moray. You do not want Rainmaker Moray. That map is disgusting. Malls on Clam. Clams on Wall. You want more mall clams in Low Ink. I guarantee you Low Ink is the only tournament where you're going to play Arowana Mall clams. At least Low Ink's the only tournament that matters that's going to have Arowana Mall clams. Number 5. Who are the bunnies? No, like seriously, who are the bunnies? I have no idea. I've commentated about 5 matches of these guys. I still have no clue who they are. Uh, if you look at the tournaments they've played on Battlefy, it's just Low Ink June and Low Ink July. That's it. Like these guys don't do it. These guys exist specifically for low ink. Now, usually that kind of raises some red flags. It's like, oh wait, is this a Smurf team trying to just like sneak their way into this tournament under different names or something like that? I don't think that's the case. I've seen a lot of their play style. They look like they play pretty well together. Maybe they just play. Maybe they're like an EU team that plays in a lot of tournaments. That are not on Battlefight. Maybe they only play Smash GG stuff. Maybe they only play Challenge stuff. Who knows? But nobody knows who the bunnies are. I want to see these guys sign up for SAC and Ludi and see how they do in tournaments outside of Low Ink. But from what we've seen with them, they're pretty good. They've tied for 5th overall in July. They finished 3rd in June. These Waspily Wabbits play pretty well together. They got a roller main. They got an anchor who can flex from scoped E-leader all the way down to a bamboozler. So they got a lot of flexibility. They got a lot of experience. I just don't know who the heck these guys are. But if they sign up in this tournament, they're definitely going to make top cut. They're definitely going to go pretty far. And I'm definitely going to end up commentating them again because that's seriously about 50% of my streams or my commentary of the last few low inks have just been the bunnies versus whoever. Number 4, Luau. Never know what you're saying. But Pop Gun, this team didn't even make top cut last month. Heck, they didn't even win beta bracket. They finished 2nd. It really depends on which version of Luau bothers to show up for this weekend. If it's the same team we saw last month, then no, they're not going to win Low Ink. If it's the same team we saw a few weekends ago in the Xanadu tournament series, maybe. If it's the actual Luau team that we have yet to witness outside of scrims, then yes, these guys are very likely to win this tournament. And I say this because, and I've talked to Sir Skid about this, but because he kind of reached out to me, and I was like, look, dude, you keep your full roster is never showing up for any of these tournaments, whether it be for DC issues, or personal issue, like work obligations or whatever. We keep seeing like Frankenstein comps coming out from Luau that just use the Luau name, but only have like 1 or 2 people that are actually on the Luau roster. But if we see an actual Luau roster, these guys are scary good, like top 8 SAC next season good. I mean, they're but again, we have to actually see this. Now, a few members on the actual Luau roster, I can already tell you are not eligible for Low Ink. One being Fern, formerly of Ink Zeta, their anchor. But they do have an army of subs, and I feel like the knowledge of the competitive game that they didn't really have when they first formed a few months ago to win this thing. And in all honesty, with the way Low Ink staff is starting to look at teams to ban, as we see Supa being banned recently, this might be their last opportunity to win Low Ink. Because these guys are good. And the only reason I can't put them at number higher than number 4 is, once again, lack of actual concrete results up to this point. You can't just put in a team... you can't just ban a team because of scrim results, but man, those of us who've actually seen the real Luau, it's like a boogeyman, basically. It's like I seen Luau, I know what they're actually capable of, but nobody else has actually seen it yet. Z knows what I'm talking about. Kami on Tetris with Sir Skit as well. It's insane what those guys are capable of. Number 3, Uh-oh. Persistence is not going to be happy about me putting them here and not the number one spot. They have a second place finish in June and a third place finish in April. But every other tournament that they have played in, or every other time they've made top cut, they've been eliminated in round one. Still, despite their massive roster, their core players Bear Paw, Stormy, Lucio, and Neo have enough talent and leadership to kind of right the ship and get things back on track and get them back into grand finals, which is where they belong. Now, they did beat Supa last Friday in a Clan Clash tourney, which admittedly is a tourney I don't really know a whole heck of a lot about, and I kind of need to look more into for the future if I'm going to keep doing a stream like this. But some reports is that Supa didn't had some subs for that, or that wasn't the same Supa team that we've seen in the past or something. So I don't really know what to make of that kind of tournament win, but regardless, having a tourney win under your belt can do a lot towards your mentality, in your mentality going forward as a team. Persistence now knows what it takes to win a tournament, and what it feels like, and how to deal with the pressure of playing against a good team in a grand final setting. And that experience alone is going to pay off a lot of dividends for Persistence down the road. And maybe, just maybe, they can cash in on that experience this weekend and use it to get them past Sunday. Number 2. Since Avalanche finished second in this tourney, it only makes sense to put them at number 1, right? Well, there's a lot of reasons why they deserve the number 1 spot. One is obvious because they finished second in the last tournament, and the team that beat them is banned. And it took a bracket reset for them to lose. They had a 3-minute. They had a lead in the final 3 minutes of the decisive Game 7 and Grand Final, so they were close to winning the entire tournament, just 3 minutes away. And now their roster is even more solidified than what it was back when they were in Low Ink. They had Custom, formerly of Comeback, as a sub, but is now an official part of the Avalanche roster. So having a month to gain synergy with a player that isn't a sub anymore will help them out a lot. The knocks against Avalanche being the number 1 team, well, the thing I just kind of praised is being solidified. Their roster, at least for a Low Ink, can't really be consistent because a lot of their players are not eligible to play in Low Ink. Last month, they did have Amir, a cracked squeezer H3 main, who wasn't really the carry for this team, but was definitely a key factor in them doing as well as they did. And I saw every game because I commentated all the games Avalanche did in Top Cut. Amir was a huge factor in how successful they were. Though some of you may remember Amir from Boreal Phoenix, a team that used to give Destiny troops fits back in the day. So Z and Tofu, I know you guys remember that squeezer from back in the day. But Amir was just a sub for Avalanche in this tournament. So I don't really know if they were to sign up again, if they were to have Amir back with them. Another issue is that their anchor is still banned from Low Ink due to having past competitive experience. So for those reasons of an inconsistent team that is eligible for Low Ink, and to be honest, I don't even know if they're going to sign up for this or not. I hope they do sign up for this, but I don't know if they're going to. But for those reasons, I can't give them the top pick as my team who will win this whole tourney. But if they do sign up and they do bring back that same team that we saw last month, they're definitely going to be a team that is a contender to win the entire tournament for sure. Now, number 1, as I take a sip of water. If there's any team that can handle me putting an unnecessary target on their back, it's Xanadu. They have grand final experience before in other tourneys, i.e. the Ash Cup. They have used that pressure. They've used the pressure that starts to build. So they're used to the kind of pressure that starts to build when you get deeper into Top Cut. They have a consistent roster of 5 players. They just finished their roster. They just added a new player and they all play consistent weapons, but do have the ability to flex with the right when the right map and mode combo kind of calls for it. And in these double elimination tourneys, Xanadu has shown that they actually play better in the losers bracket than they do in the winners bracket. When these guys have their backs up against the wall, that's when they really start to shine. And look at the teams that beat them last month, because only 2 teams beat them last month. Number 1 was the Bunnies. The Bunnies beat them in Swiss, but Xanadu was able to get revenge on them in the losers bracket, beating them 2-1 on Sunday. The other team that beat them was the West Broadway Grillers, and the Grillers beat them twice, and in all honesty, the Grillers kind of shut down Xanadu. But the fact of the matter is, the Grillers aren't in this tournament. They're banned because they won. So there's really no team that beat Xanadu in the last tournament that is going to be here. Or there's no team that Xanadu cannot... there's no team here that Xanadu cannot defeat. So give me Xanadu to jump from 4th place to 1st place and win the August Low Ink. Because if you look at everything you kind of need as a team to win Low Ink, the trends that we've been seeing, you need to be consistent. You need to have your actual roster. You need to be able to show up on both Saturday and Sunday without needing the help of a sub. And you need to be able to handle the pressure that comes with playing in low ink, because there is pressure that goes deeper down the deeper you go in. And Xanadu, from what I can see from the teams that sign up, Xanadu is the only team that checks every single one of those boxes. So if I'm betting on a team, give me Xanadu. And then watch them completely crumble, and then I'll screw up because I put this target on their back, but whatever. Now, I completely hid my notes, so let me get a sip of water, and then I'll wrap this thing up. Where did I put that? I only got 2 papers on my desk. Xanadu's really high individual skill compared to other teams in Low Ink. That is true as well. And it's interesting because my team has played Xanadu dating back to, I want to say October of last year. Or October or November of last year. So this is a team that's been around for a long time. And I've gotten to personally kind of see them grow over the months. Into the kind of monster that they're going to be today. Now, if you take offense to anything I have said today, he put my team at number 6, and I'm supposed to, if you feel dissed about where I ranked your team or that your team didn't get ranked or talked about, good. That's a good thing. Put that chip on your shoulder and use that as momentum to prove me wrong. And next Monday, I'm going to recap Low Ink all the way from Swiss to Gamma to Beta to Alpha Cut to Grand Finals. I'm going to recap it all. Not every single game, but obviously the highlights of it. Everything that I said today that I get wrong, that's how I'm going to start my show off on Monday. I'm going to announce everything I screwed up on and everything that I got incorrect. And I'm going to highlight it and personally apologize to each player. But everything I got right, I'm going to pat myself on the back for, believe it or not. And that does it for this episode of the Popcast. Now, if you would like to be a part of this show in any way, if you'd like to send me some information about your team, all that stuff is kind of helpful. You can reach me at Twitter at Mr_Popgun, Discord at Popgun, #5882, YouTube at 25Popgun, Twitch at popgun25. That's a lot of nonsense. I can't believe I got to follow all this thing. Thank you for listening. Please wear a mask. We're going to go visit my friend, By the Way Blue, who said some really nice things about me on Twitter. So I'm going to go say hi to her and send you guys to her. Please wear a mask. Please socially distance. The virus isn't going to go away until we start doing this. Please stop misgendering people. Be nice. It's not that hard, guys. I promise. I promise.